Daddy Mac. Dan's 30 years got our way, trading life and markets every day. Rusty's chained to the mines, digging deep day by day. But when Option Omega releases new features, he's free to come out and play. Option Omega, you're trading home, where every move makes you feel less alone.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Rusty's here. Dan's here. Matt's here. Wait. Brian's here. And I turned him back off. That's the power of the toggle. There you go. Brian's here. The lamest introduction. Brian.
Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to
morning.
be here. Troy, are you going to tell them what I'm doing on this show? Or with Option Omega?
I'm hoping Rusty does mostly, but that's
okay.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it. Who is Brian? If you didn't know, if you're not in the Discord, we made an announcement yesterday. But I'm gonna redo the story I told yesterday, just because it is a surreal moment. Rusty and I were messaging each other yesterday like this is the craziest thing in the world, because Rusty and I were software engineers. I do hear the echo now, Rusty, in someone's speaker.
I think it's Brian's mic. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I did. Rusty and I were software developers. We shared an office. As I've said before, he would hit me. There was some verbal, verbal stuff happening and things like that.
I mean,
but we learned.
Deserve it, though.
Well, and I've always said I deserve it, and I'm a bad person. So we would talk about options all day. We were learning together, things like that. Well, downstairs in our complex was a person who was leading product development for the app we were working on, and named Brian Chia. And every day, either I or mostly him would come up to the office, and we would just talk options all day. And early on, I mean, he was the first guy in Option Omega Discord. We were talking like app features with him early on, so he's been part of the process like the whole time for years now. But we stole him. We absolutely stole him. And he's now here with Option Omega in a full-time capacity. So Brian, welcome. Brian, yesterday was your first kind of day, and the chat, as always, was probably very kind to you, I imagine. Very sweet to you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everyone is so welcoming. They loved my back test. It was picture perfect.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, Brian shared a back test, and then immediately people did what people do. So
yeah, gentle is the way I would describe our Discord. That's the first adjective I would use.
Yeah, I'll take it as tough love.
Did you get one of Tom's famous memes or no?
He did, actually.
I love that you said that. It's exactly what happened, Dan.
Unrepeatable. It's an unrepeatable meme on the YouTube show. But Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself, and anybody hop in. I don't want to drive this train. I was telling pre-show, this was a big moment for me. This is the first, like, Dan Sheridan and Brian Chia on air together, because it's just insane to me is Brian is the one who introduced me to Sheridan options. And so it was just a weird roundabout life thing. So anyway, Brian, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what have you done up until now, and why are you here?
Yeah, happy to do that. So yes, first off, super excited to be here and join the Option Omega team. As Troy mentioned earlier, Rusty, Troy, and I worked together making software for the venue and event management space many years ago. And then somewhere along the way, we would always have these side chats about random things like deadlifting or options trading. or even like the perfect temperature to brew your tea and or mix your chicken bouillon in to drink on a cold day. So just completely random stuff. I don't even know how how we got into most of those topics.
These are all real topics, by the way. All real topics.
These were all real, and I'm sure I can think of many more awesome topics that we talked
about.
Yeah. Somewhere along the way, we got more and more serious into options trading, and I had been involved in options trading kind of casually more seriously for the last 10 years, but even before that, I always kind of dabbled in options. I had the stock portfolio, of course. My dad back in the day worked as a broker, I believe, for a few different firms, like Shearson Lehman was one of the firms he worked for in like the late 80s. So I knew about the equities and options and stocks from him. Now he kind of pivoted and went to become an entrepreneur and like started his own small business and all that stuff. But I had always been exposed to that world, so I always had like kind of a casual interest in it. And then when Rusty and Troy and I started talking, this was right around when like crypto first started, or Bitcoin first started blowing up in like 2016, 2017, around that era. And so we naturally were like getting FOMO and trying to figure out how we could get a slice of that pie. And of course, a lot of people start with like the moonshot type of plays, and then you kind of as you mature, you're like, oh, let me look for something more repeatable. How can I run this more like a business instead of a lottery? So yeah, that's kind of how we got started in the world of options. And I remember after a few years in, we were looking at SPX, the 0-day trading, 0 DTE, opening wide iron condors right at the market open, closing them right at the end of the day. All that stuff. And I think that's about the time when Rusty, you were like, there's got to be a better way to test this, right? It kind of feels like a lottery. And
well, you were there, Brian, when I experienced a tremendous amount of pain. So Brian and I were at a large company meeting. This must have been in 2021, I believe. And I said, Brian, Troy and I back tested this overnight, this 1DT overnight condor. It's got like incredible metrics. It was probably like 25 delta, and it never loses. And we were using a different platform. This is pre-option Omega, right? That had end of day data only. So not a great way to back test a trade. You put it on the night and then leave on all day because you're not getting any of those intraday moves. So of course it looked amazing. I already had my Lamborghini picked out, and I was telling Brian all about it. And I'll never forget, like the next day I woke up and I had my laptop. So of course, as you do at company meetings, you're actually trading. And so I think I had Tasty Trade open. I was like, oh no, Brian, like this lost an outlier. This is supposed to not happen. And like I've lost 3 days in a row. And I remember in your very kind way, you didn't say I told you so, but I think you were very skeptical of the tool I was using at the time, and so it kind of led to Option Omega, to having a better tool with higher resolution in the data, so that you could catch those intraday moves.
I remember you were like, how could you lose? Like it's like a 99.9% win rate. Like there's just no way to lose with this. And then I remember thinking like, okay, I know there's no such thing as free lunch. You might be onto something, but it's probably one of those like, picking up pennies in front of the steamroller type plays where if you do lose, you're going to lose pretty big. And sure enough, I think that happened like 2 or 3 days in a row. And you're like, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be better data. Because the tool we were using at the time was, I won't mention the name, but it was kind of ghetto. It was like open, high, low, and close for the single day only.
Kind
which
of ghetto. I love that.
Pretty bad results doing overnight plays with that testing data.
Well, I'll go back one further, because Brian was the first person to ever introduce me to the concept of backtesting. There was an even more ghetto backtester that he had found that I was like, whoa, they can run data and look back. So Brian's always been methodical. He's always kind of looked analytically at the tools and things like that. And, one of the things that we would do towards, late or around January of 2020 was we would try to just bet on coronavirus numbers out of China. And every night, that was something fun we would do.
That's right.
So we had it on the board. And I, to be honest, I've never said this, but I think it's probably appropriate that I say this. I had thought about making coronavirusgambling.biz, where people could put the numbers out, what they think it was going to be. But then it shut down America as well, and we had to stop.
This is before we knew it was serious. This is before I think even Italy really. We were
You could have just bought puts, Troy. Could have just bought SPX
did.
2020.
He
Yeah,
did,
yeah.
I did.
Not enough.
I remember
but yeah.
you had this world map. It was some app that
Yep.
was like the dashboard tracking all the cases. And of course, all the clusters are in China. And we're like, yeah, we're, I mean, not laughing about it, but just like kind of amused by what was happening. But it was so far away on the map at the time. We
Yeah.
were like, yeah, surely it won't get to the
Sure.
US. Like they're locking the
Yeah.
borders down. Like we'll be okay. But then within a matter of like weeks, of course, it was spreading everywhere.
Yeah, we never worked in the same office again. I mean, that's the crazy thing.
Life has
Wow.
changed.
You know, we were remote for a while after that. I mean, but that really was like some of the last months that we worked together in the office, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah. I remember we were trying to create the ideal COVID ETF. Like what's the combination of different stocks and commodities that you
Lysol.
put into a COVID
Lysol.
ETF? Long
Toilet
consumer
paper.
discretionaries, long toilet paper,
Yeah,
short oil, short energy.
it would have worked awesome for 2 months. 2 months, it would have been awesome. We would have had a prospectus. It'd be fantastic. So, Brian, let's talk a little bit about what you do and what how that transfers and why we're so excited for you to do that here, and as much as you can about the space, you know, what you did at where we worked. And we haven't really ever gotten to the too many details of what we did before, obviously CIA related, but if you you know, what did you do on a given day, and then I'll explain why it's such a great transfer, and we're so excited.
So at our previous company, I was managing both the product as well as the customer org, so like customer success. So essentially, what that means is, you know, we're all traders first and foremost, right? So I'm putting myself in the customer's shoes as a trader, trying to understand the product, trying to understand what makes the product better, what do people want, how do they get successful. You know, sometimes it's the product already does it, but people don't know how to do it. So a big part of the role is making sure that everyone is able to maximize their use of Option Omega or whatever software I'm working with, which obviously with the backtest I shared yesterday, it's kind of the reverse right now. People are kind of schooling me on how to use Option Omega until I get ramped up.
Perfect.
But there's that part, and then also the product management part, which is really just like managing, you know, there's an infinite amount of product feature requests, and there's only one Rusty right now. So there's a finite, we have to maximize our resources so that we can provide the best product with the limited capacity that we have. So those are probably the two primary aspects I'll be focusing on initially, and then, you know, whatever else as we continue to grow the product and the company, wherever needs are identified, I'll be available to help with those.
I love it. And talk a little bit about, you know, you mentioned a little bit about it, but the man really has traded everything. I mean, I remember at various points, Brian, I mean, you've gone through the journey that we all do, which, like, I remember some lunches at work, you being like, yeah, I'll wake up in the night and scalp futures. You know, like you're rolling Tesla puts. You're doing.
You guys used to do a lot of earnings plays. I remember that back in the day. There was a period of time, a lot of earnings plays. Yeah, with options.
So that journey, I mean, where have you landed now from an options trading perspective? I know you are a different elk, which we were excited about in the sense that, like, we've just converted into like DC guys, a lot of us, and you know, you still sell premium and you do all sorts of stuff. So where are you at right now, kind of in your trading, and what do you look to do and stuff like that?
Sure. Yes. So yeah, I wouldn't say I've done it all, but I've done a lot, you know, scalping futures, either during hours or after hours, doing the
taking delivery of oil, taking delivery of, you know, trucks pulling up to work, just gold trucks. Yeah.
Done the futures game, done the short premium, of course done the, you know, when you first get into it, you're like, oh, long calls, long puts, you know, trying to buy those lotto tickets far out of the money. Done the leaps, done just straight up, you know, long stocks, done the wheel, covered calls, cash secured puts. And I think where I've kind of settled, there's a few main strategies that I turn to. Haven't done quite as much in the double calendars yet, but I really love, and this is inspired by Dan Sheridan, so full credit to him. I remember watching many videos about calendars, double calendars, in either just straight up flies or iron flies. 10 to 12 DTE. You know, I'll open those on SPX or on SPY. It's not that I feel like there's any strategy or structure that has like an edge inherently. It's more just what is the structure that I can manage that fits with my lifestyle, that works with my personality, and allows me to follow rules and be systematic. And I've found that, and 5 to 10 to 15 DTE is good, and it keeps me engaged enough because it's a little bit more frequent than just selling the 45 day to expiration premium, that the tasty trade style short premium. Now I still do some of that as well, so my diversification is more about diversifying over different expirations. So I'll usually have some stuff on almost every day. I have a position or two expiring, but I'll open some stuff that's 30, 45 days out. A lot of the trades are going to be that in that like 8 to 15 day expiration. You could say short premium, like the calendars are short premium, but if you look at the actual like units, number of long to short units of calls or puts, I'm pretty balanced, so if I'm selling premium, like if I sell a put, I'm either looking to buy that put back to close it, or if we go up and VIX is low, I might buy a handful of further out of the money, longer dated puts. And over time, it's building this kind of ratio calendar with short puts. So I'm always trying to hedge, not necessarily, strictly. I wouldn't say I have like this super quantitative approach to hedging that some people do, but if I feel like premium is cheap, I might snag some long puts. I think it's a great way to make sure that if there's a big down move, like you're protected. And so over time, even if I'm selling a short put, and I'm usually fading a move, so if I feel like there's a short-term pullback, that's a great time to sell a put. But as soon as I feel like the puts are cheap again, I'm going to either close that put out or I'll buy some longer puts as a hedge. And I'll often do that as a ratio. So over time, I end up with, a lot of times I'll have more long puts than short puts, but I'm still a net premium seller. I still have positive theta most of the time in my portfolio, but I'll manage that by making sure I have a collection of longer puts to the downside, just in case. So it's a kind of a mix of a few different strategies. I'm experimenting, and as I get more into Option Omega, we'll back test them and see if it's actually supported by data, or if it's just some confirmation bias in my head about what's been working. But it's like ratio long or short puts with longer puts to hedge them. A lot of like short to medium term butterflies. Occasionally some calendars. Sometimes my positions just kind of turn into calendars. Because when I feel like puts or calls are cheap, I'll buy them, but I'll buy them longer dated. And if I sell premium, I typically sell them shorter dated. And so over time, not in a single opening trade, but I do end up with a calendarized or diagonal positions because of that. And it's anywhere from 2 to 3 DTE. Well, things are expiring every day, so I'll have positions on expiring almost every day. But yeah, typically up to around 45 days to expiration. Yeah,
no, that makes complete sense. I mean, again, it's just, I cannot communicate how wild even this moment is, because just of all the hours, the countless hours of just talking about Sheridan and how he teaches and how it's helpful. Navigation trading, Brian introduced me to navigation. Like Brian basically introduced me to all these people that, I've developed relationships with and have learned that they are not only good teachers, but good people. And Dan, I mean, you hear the story of Brian, it kind of has to feel a little weird that just like the reach that, you don't necessarily mean to have all the time, but you just have throughout time. It has to be a little weird,
It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. It's just what it really means, Matt, what they're not saying is you're old. And when they were learning, you're one of the old people, you're just around, you're just still hanging around a little bit. It's just, I love it. But I appreciate what I like. I'm thinking, Brian, if it's okay, I have 2 questions. Maybe I want to get, if I can start with the non-options question first, if it's okay, and then move to options. Obviously, if you look at me, you wouldn't say, Dan, you're a lifter, right? You're heavy in the lifting. When I hear deadlifting, we're not talking just lifting weights. Maybe if you could educate are you talking like, when you go to the gym, is that in like the powerlifting category where you're doing a deadlift, a bench press, or are you just doing, maybe give a little bit to us who would like to do some lifting. They encourage lifting when you get older. They say, and I could see it just to stay functional and be able to pick up the newspaper and stuff like that. But maybe describe this, give a little bit of us, it's the new year, inspire us. this deadlifting thing? Because you look like you could pick up a car. I mean, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess a little bit of history. I guess I got into lifting weights in high school. You know, everyone wants to be bigger and stronger and more athletic. And I was wrestling. I was doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu in high school, and I was like, I need to strength train to get better at that. And then when I got into college, a friend of mine introduced me to powerlifting. So that was like, wow, this guy's really strong. I want to be really strong. So I got into powerlifting, which is a sport that competes in 3 lifts: the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. And the goal is to lift the maximum amount of weight for a single rep in each of those exercises. And then your total is adding up all 3 of those lifts. So I got into that for a while, and that was like the primary focus of my training. And then after that, I kind of branched off into Olympic weightlifting. So I didn't want to only be powerlifting. You could say it's a little bit one-dimensional because it's only focused on maximum strength. It doesn't matter if you have terrible endurance. A lot of powerlifters do not have the best endurance. You don't have to have the best mobility or even like speed. Like speed can help, but it's really just about the maximum you can lift for a single rep, no matter how long it takes or how slow that lift is. So I wanted to get into something a little bit more dynamic. So I did Olympic weightlifting for a while. I did some strongman competition for a while, which is kind of like the odd objects. That's like the flipping the tires and like pressing the logs and the stones and things like that. And that was fun.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so these days I don't compete. It's been a long time since I've competed in any of those disciplines. I'm more just like a lifestyle lifter now. I'm pretty happy with the level of strength I built during those sports, and I'm getting older, so I'm trying to maintain a lot of the strength and those physical qualities that I developed when I was competing. So I guess as for the general population, some amount or some level of strength training I think is not required, but it's very important.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you need to be seeking the 1 rep maximum in deadlift or squat or bench press or anything like that. But some kind of resistance training, I would say 2 to 3 days a week of some kind of full body resistance training is good.
Yeah.
So you want your big movement patterns, like your like squats, your hip hinge, deadlift type movement patterns, some kind of pressing exercise and some kind of pulling exercise for your upper body. If you hit those 4 bases, you've got you've got most of it covered.
Now, Brian,
and then you can do the fun stuff. Yeah.
Be honest with me. Do you think if you got hold, I see potential. Troy's a big guy. What could you do with Troy in 6 months? Could you turn him into does he have potential to get into the, maybe the competitive power lift? I mean, what do you see the potential in Troy under your tutelage for the next 6 months? What do you see?
I want to hear his answer to this because it's going to be brutal, but
he puts the cigar down. Cigar down.
I mean, Rusty and I have been through this with Brian. Brian, you're muted. Rusty. Brian trained Rusty and I, and he gave us that whole spiel about like it's about health, and we're like, yeah. We want to do the deadlift part. You said you're like, yeah. Some people just deadlift. They're not in great shape, but they can deadlift. We're like, that just do that one. We just want to do that one. And so he went to the gym. There's a gym in our parking lot where we worked, and he went to the gym with us to teach us how to do a deadlift. I remember I wanted to do, because I've always been intrigued by Olympic lifts.
Yeah.
I wanted to do what they call a front squat, where you squat with the weight in front of you. And I tried to do it one time, and Brian said, you're not good enough, and I wouldn't do that. And I was like, okay, thank you for your kindness.
Wow.
So that answers the question, but I'd love to hear it. I mean, Brian, 6 months with me. What do you think we could do together here?
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking like World's Strongest Man 2027.
I like
that.
Wow.
Give yourself a little bit more time.
A new show on Option Omega YouTube.
There's an endurance component, so you may want to work in the lungs with that and reduce the cigar smoking just a little bit.
Wow.
I like, it is what it is.
Yeah. Honestly, Troy, you've got the frame.
Wow.
I don't want to say like the frame is that important. Like you have to make your genetics and your frame work for you, and you can kind of tailor things accordingly. I don't necessarily have the biggest frame naturally, but I was still able to get some level of success in strength training. If you have a bigger frame, you naturally have an advantage. You'll probably have a little bit more muscle mass by default, but it's what you make out of it, right?
Wow.
So in 6 months, You could probably, I bet you'd be deadlifting 400. I think Rusty got pretty
Wow.
close. I remember we
Yeah,
were
I
going to
was
the
at
gym. You got
385.
like 380
Wow.
something?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the is it Coleman, Ronnie Coleman, that everybody wants to be strong but nobody wants to lift those weights?
Everybody want to be a bodybuilder, but nobody want to lift no heavy ass weights.
Yeah, that's right. I love it. Now he's disabled now, but we'll separate those two things out.
Oh no.
I know, but
Was it a workout related accident? Like,
I know. Well, Brian, you might know. I don't know.
I mean, he says everyone, people like to speculate on what it is. He says that he had a bunch of like neck and spine injuries during college football, and then of course lifting probably didn't help. But he's pretty adamant that they interviewed him, and he has this video of him doing like an 800-pound squat for 2 reps, and it's a pretty legendary lift,
wow.
especially for a bodybuilder, because bodybuilders aren't known as being like that. Obviously, they're strong, but they're not like powerlifter strong. But Ronnie was like powerlifter strong, or close to being powerlifter strong. And they've got an interview where he says, they ask him like, "Hey, do you have any regrets like about doing that 800-pound squat now with your injuries?" And he says, my only regret is I didn't do more reps.
I love it.
Wow.
I love it. I mean, and that's the attitude, Dan. That's what me and you, that's what it takes.
I'm inspired. I am going to go lift my newspaper from the ground all the way up to.
Oh yeah.
Hey Brian, I had a question, and I was just I'm always interested in, in a community like what's great. It's the ideas, right, that you generate. And you had mentioned 8 to 15 days. Do you normally, I mean, the market's been going up. Do you notice, have you been starting with, I love your thinking. You're starting with, do you start with the short put? As we're going up, you may either take it off, but as we're going up, the volatility is going down. And then you kind of work your way into an out of the money calendar or ratio. Is that kind of the thinking?
Yes.
So you'll start naked and then maybe build. When would you on the upside just take it off, or when would you kind of start working it into an out of the money calendar or ratio calendar? What's the thinking there?
Yeah. So typically if we are on a day that it goes up, one SPY goes up 1%, 2%, like huge up moves, I always think, what a great time to buy puts. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So now if I had a short put on, I might buy 2 or 3 long puts a little bit further out of the money. Over time, it results in this composite portfolio of short to long, and where I'll have more long than short. And when I buy long puts, they're further out. They're dated further out, so it's calendarized in that aspect. So yeah, you can think about it like diagonal. Over time, I'm layering on a bunch of diagonals, and I'm kind of legging into them just based on what the market is doing. I'm usually doing like I'm fading. I'm kind of playing the opposite, but on a very small scale. And then over time, it creates this diagonalized calendar position.
Now, did you get your contrarian? I mean, 99% of the traders from the pit, you just become a contrarian, right? Now, that can get you in, a contrarian without knowledge. That's where I think the back testing and all the data helps, because, it goes up, you sell. It goes up, you sell. It goes up again, you're out of money, right? I mean, you have to do it more intelligently. Did you, so you're in more, are you in more diagonals or calendars when you start buying your puts?
Usually it's slightly diagonalized. So there's typically an offset between my short and long positions, just because I'm buying. My whole thesis is that whenever the market's going up and volatility is low, the further out of the money options might be like slightly underpriced compared to, a more normal day, just because everyone's optimistic and nobody's wanting to buy puts on a day that the market's ripping up. Now I could be wrong there. Again, we'll have to back test all this, but that's kind of my thesis.
Have you got the contrarian kind of, which I think is great. You're kind of fading the market. Did you just kind of develop that as you're watching the markets? Did you get a little bit of that? You mentioned Tasty Trade with Tom. Tom is a notorious contrarian, which most market makers are. I mean, it's just from, you just want to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing. And obviously that has its own obstacles, right? Where did you develop this kind of fading the market, which I think is is the way to trade.
Yeah.
To an extent with data, but where did you get this? Just by watching the markets, or?
Yeah. So I can explain. So I'm contrarian in like a super short time frame. I would say the way I developed, it's not really like, oh, we've been going up and up and up, it's gonna crash. I don't have that mindset. I still think like long term, I'm still gonna try and follow this trend. I've always said like don't fight the Fed if they're gonna keep cutting rates. Like I don't know if the market's gonna go to 7,000. There's no way to know. So I don't necessarily want to fight the macro trend, but what I do want to do is like kind of identify these fluctuations that I know happen on a daily basis or even intraday. And really, the contrarian nature came from looking for not necessarily an edge, but just a favorable entry condition for these trades. Like, how do I minimize the effect of these fees and these commissions I have to pay to the broker, to the exchange? If I can just set my limit and have an acceptable opening price that typically gets filled during, if we're ripping up and then I decide I still want to open a long trade today, a long position, I don't want to get a fill while the market is going up. I want to get a fill if it's temporarily pulling back. And I still think that in the shorter term, over the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're still going to go up. But I want to wait for a little bit of a pullback to enter that position. And that's just so that I can offset the fees and the commissions. And so that's really, I think that's where the contrarian nature started. Even with like butterflies, a lot of times if we are approaching all-time highs, I'll either do a balanced butterfly or maybe even a slightly, I think they call it broken wing. I don't know. Over time, all the names of the structures kind of, it just becomes puts and calls to me after a while. But it'll be like a slightly bearish butterfly, but a little bit out of the money to the upside. If we're ripping up super high, because I'm getting a little bit more favorable entry that way, kind of fading the very short term upward move. If we're still in an upward trend and we're having a slight pullback for the day, I might put on a broken wing butterfly that's slightly bullish. So it'll be perhaps like 6. If it's SPY, it could be like 6 wide on the downside, 4, 5 wide on the upside.
Oh yeah.
Or if it's kind of neutral, I might just do a neutral butterfly, balanced butterfly. So even in that sense, I'm fading it just a little bit, but I'm still I'm not necessarily trying to fight this longer term trend that we've had going on.
Yeah. I think you put it, I've tried to explain a little bit of that for a long time. You explained it wonderfully. Because it's not, you're not really,
Sorry, I was just working on some.
That was awesome.
That was last weekend.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Anyway, I love that. But I think that what you say, Brian, it's not that. I agree with you. You're not saying I'm bullish or bear. I'm not fighting the trend. You're just saying there's fluctuate. And I think how you put it, timing of getting into the trades. Like if the market rips up, right, gets near the highs, especially if it's a big number, 7,000 or 6,900, it may back off a little bit. A balanced butterfly gets you a little bit of delta short. You go down a little bit. You can make your money. So it's that timing. And I think that's crucial when you enter these trades. So I think it's exciting to see how you're doing these trades. So it sounds like you're doing quite a bit, credits, debits, both, which is nice.
Yep, I am. Yeah. So it's, again, I guess the two staple or core strategies. I feel like I go back to these a lot, and I do a little bit of everything. I'm always experimenting. I'm not as mechanical. I haven't actually done the automation yet, so that'll be my next step, is to like pick a few of these and like forward test them with the automation through Option Omega. But typically I have like 2 or 3 core strategies. One is going to be that short put, long put, that put diagonal, which is I've been experimenting. I actually have a few back tests in the works, which I'll share on the Discord. But I'm experimenting with this opening where rather than layering them on different days, is there an optimal ratio that depends on the VIX? So my first test was like 3 to 5, right? Can I sell 3 puts and then buy 5 long puts when VIX is low? When VIX is a little bit higher, should I sell 4, buy 5, and then if we have a big pullback or VIX is pretty elevated, Should I do a balance like 5 and 5, short to long, and
Yeah.
just kind of play with the ratios? Because again, the whole thing is like, when is volatility overpriced versus underpriced? I want to sell more when I feel like volatility is high. I want to buy more premium when I feel like volatility is low. And then over time, I'm really monitoring the long to short ratio of long units, long puts and long calls, or sorry, long puts and short puts versus long calls and short calls. I want to keep that pretty balanced, right?
Yeah.
I never want to be like only short premium. I feel like that's a recipe for disaster. I also don't want to be only long premium. I typically have some kind of ratio and some kind of threshold that I play in, and I'm monitoring that. And whether I put them all on at the same time or if I layer them on different days, I'm monitoring that ratio, and I'm also trying to buy more when vol is low and sell more when vol is high.
That's great.
And then I was saying there's the two kind of strategies is primarily that short put, long put diagonal, and then the 8 to 15 day butterflies. I might do some calendars. I might calendarize it a little bit occasionally, but I haven't done it. I know that on Option Omega, a lot of the community is big on these very short-term double calendars. So that's next on my list to experiment with. But I've found pretty good success in that kind of 8 to 15 day SPY double calendars. One thing with the SPY that I like is with my account size, I'm not putting on like large. I like to layer in and out, right? So with the calendars, you have very high risk reward. So there's always that little bit of that itch where it's like, I want to try and go for the pin with this calendar. I'm so close. When I use SPY, I can put 6, 8, 10 units on at one time, and I can take off slices of it, and I can do the smart thing, and like 60 to 80% of the trade, I'm going to take profits and follow the rules, and then I can leave those last couple of tranches on to try and go for the pin, get a little bit bigger payout at the end, and also manage the risk that way. So that I've been using SPY a lot, and also with SPYs, just like SPX, you can put them on 12 days out and always put a trade on every single day, and you can manage them, in smaller tranches.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I think that it's an honor to have Brian on. It really is. I mean, a dream in the sense that you guys don't know him. You're gonna love him. He's a guy who just is really analytical and thinks a lot about options, is willing to try everything. And so it actually is super helpful for us that he hasn't done automation, and he actually is newish to the back testing stuff that's been developed over the years, because that's going to give him a perspective that we don't have at this point. And that's the whole point of product development, is thinking through it from a user perspective. And, we have Canny, so he's going to be helping us think through Canny and what would best serve the community. So and to be honest, he had a really good job. And so it really does feel like a steal that we got him. We've always wanted him. Option Mega's grown now to the point where we could, we saw the value in asking, and he saw the value in saying yes. And that's
Troy and I were sitting around. Really, this all started a few months ago. We were like, we're just putting together like the dream team of who we would hire, and Brian was at the top of the list. So excited to have you on board, Brian. Yeah,
it's gonna be awesome. And obviously, we will do a deadlifting show. We will at least do one deadlifting show this year. That's my promise to you. I've got to get. I
hope it's Troy and Brian and Troy's son. That would be awesome. I want to see that.
My son has my son's a beast. But anyway, all right. Yeah, no, Dan knows. Dan and my son are tight.
What's scheduled for the day? We got a busy day.
Matt, thank you for saying that. I want to share something real quick with you, and if you don't mind, we do have a busy day, because in 1 hour at 10:30, it's Fix My Back Test with Mark Anderson. We're going to be looking at tests and seeing what we can do to improve those tests. There's a channel in Discord you can go. You can submit tests. Don't know if we'll get to yours this week, but we will get to yours eventually. So looking forward to that. He's pumped about it. He's been messaging me. After that, 10:30 at noon today Eastern, we have the Navigation Trading Show. Steve and I are going to be talking about maybe looking at some ways to play gold, doing some models in gold, playing the gold madness. We all love gold here. We've made our feelings known about it. We are, but not for hedging, just to wear. all the time. So we're excited about that.
It's so weird.
And then finally at 3:30 today, small account challenge. It's the initial one. The goal is to wear that shirt on the right in real life eventually. We're not there yet. I'm going to be honest.
Those are the most bizarre AI generated photo. Like, what's wrong with your neck? I don't know what's
Again,
happening.
here, I'm going to tell you a secret, actually. Those actually aren't, and I'm being real, those actually aren't AI generated.
Those are real photos?
Those
Going
are
to
real
the purple?
photos.
Your neck
Now-
is like
Now, they're changing my shirt out. I
okay.
usually do not wear a gold and purple shirt.
shiny gold and purple shirt.
You know.
You save those for special occasions.
That's a special.
The disco
special
competitions.
That's right. That's
That's
right.
a special occasion. So I'm excited about
Bingo
it.
night.
I am excited. It's perfect timing in that I'm getting back in deadlifting and Brian starting, because the amount of dumb questions we asked him, I wish you could have heard some of the questions. Like when I was first starting, I'd be like, "So I'll be strong, Brian." Those were the type of questions I was asking. I'm excited. I'm excited for it.
So I'll be.
So
It's
good.
kind of
But
like
anyway,
lifting is like trading, right? You know, when you first get
Yeah.
started, you're focused on one thing, like, oh, the
That's right.
deadlift is the magical exercise. If I only do this, I'm gonna be the strongest person in the world. And then over time, you kind of learn, like, okay, I need to do stuff that makes me consistent, that keeps me healthy, only consumes the right amount of time every week, but not more than that. So everything is a journey. There's initially there's that kind of moonshot. Everyone wants to take that big moonshot YOLO type play, but then over time, like even with competition, I'm not doing competitions anymore, but I still lift. I love to lift. I love doing all the meathead things.
two
but
things.
I found like a balance, a more mature approach as I get older.
I mean, two things. Again, I'm not trying to blow smoke, and we're not going to talk about it every day. So I'm just going to do it now. Like I said yesterday, he's literally the strongest human being. Like I've got really strong friends, played football, stuff like that. Like pound for pound, like at a relative, he's literally the strongest human being. It's so much of, like, he would be like, "Yeah, I entered this. What'd you do this weekend? I entered this competition in Chattanooga that he basically hadn't trained for. There's a strong man, and he just destroyed it and got first place. Like he deadlifts things that, like, correct me if I'm wrong, this is pure memory, but the nostalgia factor is there, Brad. Like you like, I think your PR in deadlift's bigger than Schwarzenegger's, right?
No, not quite. Close. I think
It's close though, isn't it? It's close. It's close. Anyway, last thing I'll say about what Brian said about options, the same thing as weightlifting, like the importance of having a mentor. Like Brian really did teach me a lot with and Rusty, I think, would say the same thing about working out in the sense of, like, things that we would have it would have taken months to get right. 2 sessions with him put us on the right track. It helps so much. Things like, what do you do after you're done? Are those all you do? No, there's some auxiliary, like, circuit things you can do to strengthen, like, back extensions, things like that, to help your deadlift, to help you towards your goal. And Brian thinks that way, and it's going to be super helpful for us. So Brian, I'm thankful you're here. It's going to be it's going to be pumped to have you. I'm done with it now. All right,
it's going to be pumped.
Yeah, you guys have a great trading day, and I will see you in an hour.